So I've been playing a lot of modded Minecraft. Well, rather, I've been modding Minecraft a lot. I've been having fun, but one of the issues I have with modern Minecraft, and it's exacerbated when you mod it, I have about 57 mods, a lot of which add a lot of blocks and clutter and stuff, as you can see here. And, it becomes really annoying to constantly have to organize your storage and your inventory and that sort of thing, where you have to be like, okay, well, my stone goes in here and my wood goes in here, and then I could sort all that out, and then my fentanyl goes in here, and it's just kind of a nightmare at a certain point. I've just been kind of wanting to do like a casual modern Minecraft playthrough where I kind of just focus on building and decorations and stuff like that, but I found it difficult to find inventory mods that sort of just circumnavigate storage systems entirely. There's some smaller mods that increase the amount of inventory space you have or add additional slots and stuff like that, but there's also backpack mods, which are basically just glorified shulkers, which don't really help all that much. I think part of it is it's just hard to implement that sort of thing. So Java Minecraft, even in single player, is both a client and a server, and you have to sort of send data between the two, and it can get kind of complicated from what I understand. So I think that's why it's not a very popular mod. It's not something, you want to develop as your first mod, for example. I found this mod, called Endless Inventory, and this kind of does what I want. Full credit to the original author, kwwsyk MC. I will put a link to the mod page as well as the repository of the source code in the description. Credit where credit is due. They did a lot of the hard work for me. Basically what the mod does is whenever you open your inventory with E, you have a secondary inventory where you can stack things above 64, so you can see I have a stack of 174 iron ingots. There's a search bar, there's all of these tabs and such, and then if I press I, ignore that the columns are offset. That's something I've done. It's not fault of the mod itself, but if you press I, it's kind of like a full screen version of your endless inventory. It's nice. You can just sort of chuck everything. If you're mining, let's say you have like a bunch of stone and moss and gold ore, eggs for some reason. If you're mining, you can just be like, okay, well, I'll just throw all that in here and I can keep mining. I don't have to go all the way back to my base when my inventory's full, that sort of thing. Now, some of you might be thinking this is very cheaty, especially if you're like a hardcore player or something, but like I said, I'm just kind of casually playing, and I don't want to have to deal with all the tediousness. So I kind of like this. You can also craft out of this, so if you're, working on taking down some trees and your axe breaks, you can just craft an axe real quick, put the materials back in here. You don't have to worry about it clogging up your main inventory. It's pretty cool. I didn't really want another axe, but now I can just put it in there and forget about it. So it's very handy. It's very cool. I don't have to fumble around with chests. I don't even have a storage room. I do keep some things in my furniture, but it's really nice. But the issue is it's not complete. There's a lot of bugs. There's a lot of issues. The UI is kind of messed up, especially in this version of the UI. You got all kinds of problems. So I was kind of like, well, maybe I can fix it up. I have no Java experience, no modding experience, but what I do have is AI. And, I'm not the first person to jump on the AI bandwagon to do everything for me. I think it's kind of problematic. I think they might overtake humanity and cause, some sort of war and take over the planet. It's not impossible, and I'm kind of apprehensive about using it. But for the first time, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to solve all these problems with AI. I got a pro subscription to Claude. I'm not endorsed by Claude in any way. It's just what I've been using. I'm not trying to advertise it, but I kind of just wanted to show a before and after of, the unfinished state of the mod versus what I was able to do in about 5 hours with Claude. So what I have installed right now is the original build for Minecraft 1.20.1. for endless inventory based off of the GitHub repository for this version. So I'm going to kind of showcase how the mod functions and looks right now, and then compare it with my version. Well, first off, let's talk about UI design. UI was kind of my specialty when I was a developer, and it's kind of like the main thing that bothered me. As you can see here, there's stuff going all over the place. Granted, I can fix this. Let's do 9. Yeah, so that's at least flush with that, but there's still issues. You know, the arrows for scrolling the pages is all messed up. This arrow is off screen. There's a button up here that's off screen, which toggles a crafting table. And then the settings cog is like in a random spot down here. The search field is kind of not centered properly. There's all kinds of problems. If we open this one, the tabs are like sort of sandwiched between the UI and the side of the screen. And again, the search field and cog are kind of in a weird spot. That's just kind of basic design things. But moving on to functionality of the UI, we have some issues as well. So if we go into the settings, and you can sort of show and hide different pages. So if I wanted to hide weapons, tools, and equipments, I'd toggle these booleans, save and quit. But as you can see, they're still here. And the only way in this version to apply that change is to completely restart the game. So that's a problem. And then additionally, the bookmarks feature does not work. So there's this bookmark tab, and how it works is there's a keybind in your controls. Here under endless inventory, we can see star item. That's your favorites functionality. And I've set a keybind for that. How it works is you hover over the item you want to favorite and press the keybind. So I just favorited stone, but if I go down here, the stone is here, but it's not displaying the value, the amount in the stack properly. There's an empty space here. If I try to favorite these wheat seeds, because the stack is over 64, it is not favoriting it. And if I were to make a stack of 64 and then do the favorite, now you can see them here. Additionally, depending on which version of this mod you're using, this bug can be reproduced in various ways. But for this version specifically, if I do by count, which sorts it by the stack amount, as you can see, I'm scrolling and the scrolling works. But if I reverse the sort to where the big stacks are at the top, then our scrolling bugs out to where rather than moving the rows down as you scroll, or moving the rows up, I guess, it just kind of deletes the lines and is completely unusable. And that's obviously a big issue. So those are kind of the glaring issues. There's also some other things that I wanted to change that aren't necessary, I guess you could say. The pages. The pages don't really make a lot of sense. What I've done in my version is I combined tools, weapons, and equipments, which is just armor. I combined all of that into one tab. There's also this page, block items. There's things here that aren't really blocks, I would say. And there's some other things that I've done with the pages that maybe aren't necessary, but are just preferences, and also are things that I might expand on in the future. So I think that about covers everything. Let me show you my version. Here we are. As you can see, I've cleaned up the UI a lot, is immediately the first thing you're probably noticing. If I go to this one, it also looks pretty clean. What I've done is on the attached menu, I've moved the tabs over to the right. I've also realigned a lot of the buttons, like the arrows, the search field, and the settings button are much more aligned with the UI. Same over here. We got a nice alignment with the tabs. I moved the crafter button down to be in line with this stuff. And the search field and settings are consistent with both versions of the menu. Yeah, so the UI is vastly improved. All of the issues I covered are fixed. I forgot to mention in the build I showed you before, there were 2 crashes that I had to patch out just for the demonstration. So that wasn't even the original build. But the crashes were fixed. The scrolling issue is fixed. So if I go to count and reverse order, the scrolling works properly. If we go to the settings, I've added options to change the amount of rows and columns for both versions of the menu. If you want to customize that further, you can. Also, the pages work. So if I want to hide, let's just hide a bunch of random things so it's obvious, save and quit. Now you only see the 3 pages that are left. So we can turn those back on, and we don't need to quit out of the entire game to apply that change. The favorites menu works as intended, so I can favorite spruce, coal, bamboo, gold, blackstone, and we can see all that stuff here perfectly fine. There's also different pages, so I've added, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the blocks items is only solid blocks now. The gear tab is all of the tools, weapons, and armor combined, and they're also separated by type. The stone has its own tab. Any stone related items are going to be here. Wood related items are in here. Ores and minerals. So you got your coal, your iron, your diamond, all that stuff. I also added a mod items tab, which is definitely a preference thing on my part. Definitely not going to be something enabled by default at the very least. But this way, with all my decoration and furniture mods and stuff, I can keep those organized too. But yeah, overall, I think it's vastly improved. And I didn't even open a code editor. I didn't even open the project folder. I just let Claude do all the hard work, and I tested and sort of directed it on what to do. With no Java, no modding experience at all, I was able to just sort of spit this out within 4 or 5 hours, and I think it's way better than the original version of the mod. There's some issues, obviously. I would like to clean up some things, like making these arrows actual arrows instead of just a V and like a caret symbol. And there's also an overlap issue where the items overlap the labels here. So there's still some things to iron out, but I just thought it was kind of cool. I was able to do this within a few hours on my day off with no experience with modding, just sort of get the mod to work how I wanted it to. It's pretty satisfying. Even though I didn't really do any of the hard work, it's still pretty interesting, I thought. So again, full credit to the original mod author. He got all the hard work done. I was just polishing it up. My code could be awful, but whatever, it seems to work. It seems to be pretty optimized, and I'm happy with it. So I'm excited to just play with this mod, with it fully featured and everything, and get to building and crafting and mining and everything. So I just thought I would share this little modding adventure I've been on. Again, I'll put all the source code and everything in the description. And I'll even put in the sort of change log that Claude spit out about all the changes I've made as well. I'll put that in the description. Yeah, take it easy.